Welcome, Remi, to Metalladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Hamferd. This new album, Min Guds Hon Sterk, I think is the correct pronunciation, but it is a different. So, and obviously, more things related to the metal world. So, we are starting by asking how has the band been during the last 6 years? Because your second album, Tamsin Likam, was released in 2018. Now, 6 years later, we have this Men Goed Hon Sterk.
Yes. What was the question? Sorry.
How has the band been during the last 6 years?
We've been good. We've been playing some shows. Obviously, we haven't been super active, partially due to the pandemic, of course. But we've been wanting to write this record for a while, and we've been writing it for a while. So that has taken some of our focus. It was, of course, very how to say very apt to spend the pandemic time to write music. Um, and then everything slowed down, so we could just focus on the writing. Um, in between Thompson's Likam and the new record, Guds Honderstesk, we changed guitarist and bassist, I believe, amicably, both of them. No personal hard feelings of any kind. Of course, the people's lives change, so things just happen. And
Hmm.
we've been happy with our current guitarist and our current bassist as well as our the same one that we had earlier. So he just rejoined the band, so it was very easy in that way.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay.
So I think, so to speak, that's what's been going on. Some of us have gotten married and that kind of stuff. Just people getting older.
Well, yeah, that is true. So, well, your previous album, your previous album was obviously your both records. Your first album was released by Tool Records, and since your second album, you are working with Metal Blade Records, a great label around the world. So, how was your entrance to this big label, Metal Blade Records, at the beginning, and now how is the treatment with them?
They've been very kind, very supportive, and very patient, I would say. Like you said, we released Thomas Likam back in 2018, the first record with them, and they haven't been like aggressively chasing us to record or release any new material. They just let us work on it in our own time and supporting us whenever we have reached out. So we've been very happy with their um, treatment of us. Nothing but praise. It's been very easy. There's just like no drama or no issues, no struggle. It's just been very easy
Okay.
the way.
Hmm. Okay. Well, when I try to find when I try to find more information about especially the cover art's something very abstract compared to, well, usually the band use something abstract in their cover arts. That's a good thing to understand more in the vein that you have something more funeral, something doomer, a little death in there, but you have the more doom that you are more a doom metal band than the death metal band. So for this
Yeah,
aspect, so how do you label the band? A funeral doom metal band, or how do you see this aspect?
yeah. I think we don't like worry too much about this because we know that like the general genre would be doom metal, but like you say, we like to incorporate elements of other genres here and there. Um, Sometimes a bit of death, sometimes a bit of black. This time there's a bit of post as well, and then just this general Faroese sound people call it. It's not like an intentional thing. It just comes out because of how, I don't know, how we hear and write music. Um, but I think if if you want to put a kind of genre on it, and I'm not sure that I would call it this, but maybe some kind of post doom would make sense. If you think about how post metal incorporates lots of, there are progressive elements, there are softer elements, there are more hardcore, like general metal elements. I think we have a similar thing with our doom metal, where we have progressive elements, quieter elements. It's a bit more open to what's allowed within the music.
Mm,
Um, other people have just called it Faroese doom metal or something in that vein, but that's
yeah.
not very descriptive, of course.
Okay. Okay. Well, other aspects about the sound of Hamferd is the voice from John Aldara, a great singer, by the way, because love the other projects, Burn Earth, Yotun. So,
Yeah.
well, I think their voice is unique in the world for me. Is unique in the world. But with this aspect, when he sings for other bands, it's do you have afraid that the sound of Hamburg is exported to other bands? Because the as I said, his way to sing is very unique.
Hmm. No, I don't see it as a like competition or anything. I don't see us as being um, at odds with each other. I think that the music in the other projects that he has joined is very distinct from Hamferd. And of course, we agree that he's a great vocalist. Otherwise, we wouldn't want him in the band, so to speak. um, but there's no there's like no competition between us. We know the guys in Jotun and in Bare Earth, and they come to our shows. We go to their shows whenever we can, and we party and we we all get along. Everything's good. It's
Hmm,
just we're just friends, all of us.
hmm. Okay, so for this, for to promote this new Men Gudslo Hon är stärkt. What kind of promotions do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will prepare more videos, perhaps you will embark in tours in Europe, US, who knows? What kind of plans do you have for this new album?
We so far we have released two music videos. Um, a third one will be released, coinciding with the release of the album, um, which is on the 22nd, I believe, of March, if I remember correctly. And then we will be doing a release show in the Faroe Islands, and one in Denmark and one in Norway. I'm not sure if there is another one of the release shows. And then we are working on touring later in the year, where we have some concrete plans and some other things that are in the works. But I can't announce anything yet. It has to go, of course, through the official channels. But we are looking into touring, and we have announced a couple of release shows, and yeah, there will be more touring later in the year and
Hmm.
possibly next year. But of course, we need to we all have to balance this part of our lives with our work lives and our family lives and everything. So we just need to everything needs to work out.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, other aspect, as you can see now in the world, is that mostly the people prefers to hear the music just by singles. So for this aspect, as you can see, there are playlists around the world with just one or two songs for an album. So for you, if we relate with this, which songs for you represent whole textures, concepts that this new album has that this new album has.
Like if I were to choose a couple of songs from the album, which songs would represent the album best? Do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I think if I had to choose, I would probably pick Up Air, the first single we released, and one called Glaman, which will not be a single, but it's the fourth track, I believe, and Mardosorg, which will be the next single. Uh, I think those three songs cover the general aspects of the album pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a bit difficult because it is a pretty varied album. Glam on the one I mentioned, it's a very quiet song. Um, but if you heard our second single, Kvölja, then you heard that that's a very not quiet track. So it's a bit of it's an album of extremes in a sense. But I think that that came about through us trying to capture the different emotions that we could imagine from the event that took place in what was 1915 that the album is based around.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Interesting to know. Other detail that I want to ask you, especially because Hamferd comes from a country that like is Faroe Islands, a country that I tried to find more information in the metal scene, these kind of aspects, and I saw just you have 14 bands in Faroe Islands, no more metal bands there. So in this
Mm.
case, how is the scene there in Faroe Islands? How is the support of the fans there? How perhaps is there any festivals there, or who knows what? How is the in general? How is the scene in Faroe Islands?
The general music scene is very healthy. Music has always been a big part of Faroese culture. Um, but I think the metal scene has shrunk a bit in the last couple of years. Now I live in Denmark now. I lived here for a couple of years. So I'm not entirely sure exactly today, exactly how it is. But of course, I have many friends, and all the other and the members of the band live in the Faroe Islands. So of course, I hear what they tell me. And from what I hear, it has shrunk a bit the metal scene. There are still metal bands, and they're playing, and I know a couple of them who are good. Um, but back in the day when we started, there were many more metal bands. Um, but like I said, the general music scene is very healthy. There is everything from metal to rap to funk to jazz and everything in between. And there are at least three bigger festivals each year that I can think of. Uh, G Festival, Summer Festival, and what's it called? One in Torshavn, which I can't remember the name of.
Mm.
But, they attract, of course, many local names, but also names from abroad, international names, to come and play. So that's very good. I think. I think a healthy music scene is good for the culture of a country. Um, the music in general is just always an asset, so to speak.
Mhm. Okay, okay, I understand. So, talking about now, especially, well, it's very difficult to know when the lyrics are speaking in your language. It's very difficult to know what exactly try to say the band with this aspect. So, in the three albums, what are the main focus of the lyrics of the Hamford?
In the older albums or the current
No,
one.
yeah, in all albums in general, a main thing perhaps.
Mm. In the previous three albums, there was a through running or a through line, a storyline that went through all three albums, which was in reverse chronological order, where the story was we're trying to tell a story about a fictitious family and like deaths surrounding the family and mythological beings from the Faroese mythology that got involved, and there was a big like an epic, so to speak, story. Jon knows the details way better than I do. Um, but on this latest album, it's taken directly from an event that happened in real life on the Faroe Islands back in 1915 in the village where our keyboard player is from, where there was a pod of pilot whales. So people, when the men of the village went out to what do you call catch them or whatever you would call it, and people from the neighboring village, all the men came, and then while they were out there trying to get the pilot whales, there brewed a big storm, which caused almost all of them to die at while doing it, while their families were watching at the shore and not able to do anything about it. And then there were 14 men who died at that time. So we've taken inspiration, so to speak, from that event and trying to treat that event in many different ways. So there are tracks that are more aggressive, some that are way more sad, and all those kinds of emotions. And we got one of the survivors made an interview back in, I don't recall, was it the 70s? I'm not sure. Several years ago on the radio, which we got permission to use. So we took extracts of that interview because the interview was like an hour long or so. We used the extracts, which we accompanied with some guitar, where he tells of the event from his point of view, and we used that as the closer of the album to set everything in context. And I really, that's my personal highlight of the album, is that epilogue, so to speak.
Okay, interesting to know. So, talking about one of the last questions for this interview, Remi, and for this aspect, so what's your opinion about now the productions, a lot of productions in the world happen with the metal scene? As you can see, we have more than 20, 30. Each Friday, we have 20, 30, 50 releases per week. So in this, some people think this is very saturated, and other people think that is that is good. Is good for the metal scene. So in this case, what is your opinion about these overpopulated releases each week?
I think I've also thought about this a couple of times, like how saturated, as you put it, the scene is now if you compare it with the 80s or the 90s. And I think it's a double-edged sword, so to speak, because I think it enables bands and artists themselves to release music that would not otherwise be released, which then enables or facilitates niches for people that wouldn't exist otherwise. Like avant-garde sludge with some other, like really niche stuff, that wouldn't get released back in the day because you had to go through way more like official channels, so to speak. So I think it's a good thing that that type of music gets released so that people who want to hear that stuff can get to hear it. That's a really, really good thing. I think we would fall within that kind of niche in a sense, because Faroese doom metal is like not really like a mainstream metal genre, so to speak. But but the flip side of that coin is that when there are so many bands and so many releases, um, it's hard to stand out for one thing, and also I don't think that we I think it's highly unlikely that there will be another band like Metallica or Megadeth or Slayer, not because there won't be bands that are equally as good, but because I don't think there will be bands that so many people will gather around. If you get my what I mean.
Mhm.
When there are so many bands, then everyone gets split up into smaller groups, as opposed to before when you only knew of let's say 10 bands or whatever. Then of course you would flock around the best of those bands, and that it's good and bad. I mean, I think it's a shame that we can't have huge stars, so to speak, like Metallica and Megadeth and all those. But it's a good thing that we can make music, or we can hear and get music that appeals to more specific people.
Hmm.
If that
Well,
makes sense.
yeah, that is correct. Well, I know, I know what I know what you're saying because some people, yeah, now hear just music that he likes or they like, just technical for one side, avant-garde one or other side, and that's why the playlist especially they're doing just for the kind of music for certain of people, no a lot of people. So well, Remy, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. Love this new record. It's very, I don't know. You say the word. It's very post, but doomer. So no, sometimes I found a little funeral songs there
Yeah.
because it's very complicated to label the record, but it's interesting. In my point of view, it's very interesting to hear this kind of music. So for
Thank you.
you, congratulations on this new record. So or perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and obviously Metalerium followers?
Uh, Only that I think it's amazing if there are people in South America or other other Latin places that listen to our Faroese music. That's an amazing thought, and I really hope that we get to play in your part of the world within the reasonable future. That would be
Okay,
amazing. I've always wanted to go to Brazil or Spain or all of these wonderful places. We've been to Spain, but I mean,